Welcome, everybody, to the Lone Wolves podcast. I'm John Macaroon. Joining me, my guy, Emmett. He covers the Michigan State Spartans. He's an insider. He is a quality journalist reporter. And my goodness, there's so much to talk about. I did an hour interview breaking down and talking about Sherrone more, talking about the wildness that is going on today. The story is crazy, Emmett. We're going to talk all about it. And look, this show that everybody knows when they check in is free-flowing. You can talk about in the comments Michigan State hiring Max Bulla, what you think about Sherrone Moore getting fired, the Lions, and the Rams. Emmett and I are going to touch on it because, Emmett, I found him at Michigan State. I know I've talked about him on the podcast regarding how much I value his work and how dedicated he was to covering really a bad football team, but in a way that made me feel like they were Alabama. And I followed his work, and I was like, wow, this guy gives me the ins and outs of everything I want to know. So when I met up with him at Michigan State, because I'm also a quality reporter, I said, I want to work with you. And he does great work covering the Lions as well, giving us some college insights. So the big question, Emmett, like everybody else, where were you when you found out that Sherrone Moore has a major, major problem with fidelity? He is allegedly somebody that is an individual that engaged in alleged inappropriate conduct that was investigated by Michigan, and then boom, he got waxed. Where were you? I was actually typing a Lions story at Allen Park in the Lions media room, and everyone's like, whoa. And I was like, what happened? What happened? What happened with the Lions? They're like, Sherrone Moore got fired, whacked. Where were you? And just your thoughts on what a crazy story. I mean, I just cannot wrap my head around, and we'll talk our way through it. Someone with that level of power, and you and I are familiar with it with Mel Tucker, and we'll break that all down too. 100%. It happened again, Emmett. It happened again.
I know. I remember tweeting out, what is it with coaches in Michigan? Because now you have that. You also have Central Michigan's coach, McElwain, getting fired for the whole scandal with Connor Stallions. You have, obviously not same scale, but 3 different coaches fired for straight up cause for stuff that had broken already with them. So when we're talking, where was I when I found out? Are we talking about when I found out he was officially canned by like the official tweet? Or am I talking about when I had sources start telling me this stuff's going to happen?
You tell us.
All right. So I was actually at Lafayette, Coney Island. Just sat down with my Coney dog and chili cheese fries when I had found that out. And then for when I found out last, it would be when I found out like first time through sources, I want to say I was dog sitting my grandma's dog. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that he would be fired, but I had heard he's under investigation. And I'm like, okay, cool. I can't really tweet or break anything on that because I'm staying in my lane as Michigan State's reporter. But at the same time, I was like, okay, that's something I need to monitor. And I thought he might be potentially suspended for, say, the bowl game or potentially for 3 games of 2026 was more my thoughts of what a suspension you could face, internal discipline. I obviously at that point did not know severity. And then with this severity, yeah, you kind of have to move on, in my opinion, just the same way how I felt. And that's the exact same opinion I had in 2022 with the Mel Tucker scandal is you have to move on. When you have something like that, especially both coaches at the time of their infidelity, consensual, non-consensual, was they were both married at the time. And that's obviously a no-go, even if it was consensual and even if allegedly the divorce was going through for Tucker. That's still just something you can't necessarily have. It's not a good look for a college coach. And I think I was having this discussion with a couple friends. I think it is doubtful that you will ever see Sherrone I don't think you'll ever see Sherrone in a Power 4 head coaching role again. I think he could potentially come back into the head coaching ranks. I don't see him becoming a Power 4 head coach again, just especially with the offensive struggle that Michigan has had this year. I know a thing or two about offensive struggles, obviously. Just with that, I just don't see that happening right now for Sherrone.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much to talk about regarding when people knew. They waited until after signing day. They did an investigation. It is just wild. So we're going to talk about it. We got time. I was just fired up because it's so wild to think about that it happened at Michigan State, Central, and the Michigan Wolverines, the leaders in best, coming off of, their cheating alleged scandal, all the punishments they had to face, all the show causes that happened. It is just a wild situation. So we're drawing more fans. Thank you guys for the 500 people that are checking in. I know the Red Wings is on, so maybe nothing is streamed. So thank you for checking in. The free way to help me and Emmett continue to do our great work for Lions on SI. Real simple. Please just hit the like button and hit that notification bell. I know I want to talk to Emmett a lot more. I enjoy conversating with Emmett at Michigan State. Most of the time it's like, Emmett, please end this misery that is this football team. Please end this misery. And trust me, I direct message Emmett quite a bit. And I say, Emmett, you better not report to the boss that Jonathan Smith is coming back. And to your credit, you said, John, you're going to be okay. It's going to be fine. I feel like the record that was put out at Michigan State was nowhere near acceptable for an alum to want to see that. And if you're a member, you can become a member like Gumby. Shout out to Billy Band. If you're in the chat watching, what do you think about what happened with Sherrone Moore? Are you shocked? Are you not surprised? If you're a State fan, what's your reaction to the hiring of a former player? Great news. I found out when I was on the air that Max Bulla has been hired. This is great. This is a great opportunity for the Michigan State Spartans. So we'll get Emmett's reaction to the hiring. And also, we'll touch briefly on the Lions. They're going to face a big test. Any thoughts that you have, we'll flash them. We'll highlight people that are in the comments. Big M53, shout out to you. Gumby, who's obviously flashing the emojis. Love that. Billy Band, Gumby, we appreciate you guys early on. Get your comments in. We will interact. We will take your comments. But Emmett, this is crazy with college football, the landscape, the way in which it's crazy, Emmett, that the two schools have mirrored each other. Like there's a scandal at Michigan State, followed by a scandal with a doctor at Michigan. There's a coaching scandal at Michigan State. Mel Tucker gets blown out. Everyone laughs at Mel Tucker and his two-phone situation and his phone situation and how he was handling things and the inappropriate relationship that he had with a vendor, which resulted in him forfeiting millions of dollars. Now you get Sherrone Moore, who really is wild, knowing that the University of Michigan is under a microscope. You are a leader of a program that is followed by millions, that everybody's looking at everything you're doing, and you're getting skewered for a 3-loss season. Your future was in jeopardy just off of the season that you had, turning an investment, a diamond like Bryce Underwood, turning him into nothing. And you're an individual that still felt like you could have this occur within the context of being a leader of a program. It is unbelievable. And really, the message here clear from Big M is right. Sherrone made a series of pathetic decisions. What the heck? These leadership positions are hard to come by. And these coaches, I just feel, really let their program down and really did a disservice, bottom line, to the kids.
I completely agree. Especially, I do not like the timing of it, especially when I had already heard that your investigation starts the Tuesday of signing day. Nothing becomes public about it. Nobody even knows he is publicly being investigated until the news breaks today that he's fired, which is, you can say, oh, our internal investigation. That just kind of screams cover up that, oh, well, in the middle of the night, you're going to basically, it's kind of like how the whole Mel Tucker situation broke, with in the middle of the night, right after a game. I believe it was like the Sunday night after Michigan State played like Richmond or something, I want to say. It just went straight into that. And it's obviously Sherrone Moore, series of bad decisions. And you briefly touched on the development of, say, Bryce Underwood not really panning out. I do think that Sherrone Moore had the right pieces for next year, but at the same time, you need to look and see how everyone would develop. Obviously, now you have a chance to really break him in with potentially a coach that's willing to throw the ball more, which is something that I think, as someone who watched this Michigan team for only really one game this year, the Michigan State game. Obviously, Saturdays I'm a bit tied up and a bit busy with covering the Spartans. Yeah, I know you guys can rib me for that, but obviously it's just looking at this Michigan team, I felt like they had some of the pieces and weapons in the receiver room and the tight end room specifically. I'm very high on I was very high on Marlon Klein. I believe he graduated. But Klein was a player I was high on, and I thought you could have gotten the ball to him more, and he could have been your Colston Loveland this year. So obviously, it is a not great situation in terms of optics, one that I've had to deal with before, obviously, with Michigan State. That was the first year I covered the Spartans, not from press at that point, but just from writing about them. And I remember having to have a sit-down discussion with my editor, Connor Muldowney at the time, just on, hey, here's how we're going to be journalistic and ethical on it. So there's a lot of lessons that I've taken from that for this, and it is a bad situation for the optics, but that said, any rumors besides the fact that he is arrested, as officially broken on Twitter, that is all I really have to run with right now. And obviously that's more than just a series of bad decisions or an extra series of bad decisions if you are under arrest, which is a wild time.
Yeah. I ain't say that. Shout out to you. I know you respect us. You're in here quite a bit. $5 super chat. Guys, if you're commenting and you're listening, you want to get a question in, you have a comment, drop a super chat. We greatly appreciate it. Helps keep the light on, helps keep me assigning Emmett with more responsibilities, which I love to do. Time to question that AD over there at Michigan. Who knows what else is happening? Also, love the late night streams. Doc, perfect nightcap with my Modkoi. Nice. And I appreciate that. That is really kind to really give us an opportunity to do this. And that's why we do it. I just can't. I mean, there's so much. I did an 1.5-hour interview with Crunch Time Sports, Booner and Jeff. And I was like, there's so much to talk about. I want to keep talking about it. And Emmett knows firsthand because he covered Michigan State with Mel Tucker. Now tell everybody, where did you cover? Where do you cover the Spartans and where can people read your stuff? And we'll talk more about Mel Tucker and Sherrone Moore, who just really today shocked the world at 4:37 p.m.
Yeah, so I am the co-owner of Spartan Shadows, SpartanShadows.com, and then I also have my own podcast, MSU Shadows Pod. That also, I believe that's the X handle, and then I think it's Spartan Shadows Podcast. We actually, one of the reasons I'm in this, we just recorded a rapid 3-minute reaction for YouTube Shorts for the Max Bulla hiring with my co-hosts, Chris Norman and Zach Seiss. So shout out to those two. We do a bunch of awesome work together. If you want to check out more Michigan State content, kind of shouting out a podcast on a podcast, I know, podcastception, but yeah, so that's really where you can find most of my stuff. But yeah, it is a wild, like you said, it's kind of that parallel running. And then my question becomes, does Michigan State go and win a national title now? Because you see them parallel each other and take it to the next level. Because Michigan State is really good 2013, 2014, 2015. Then you kind of see the decline of Michigan State at the same time Michigan starts to rise. You see the big head honcho head coach. You see Mark D'Antonio right as he retires. Then you start having Michigan come into light with Harbaugh after he's had quite a few solid seasons from 2015 on. And then he finally takes that next step, whether it's with or without the Stallion scandal. So then you see them take that next step and get to that the national stage that a big brand like Michigan should be on nearly every year. They get to that stage and then win their national title. Does Michigan State follow that parallel despite not having necessarily the same bigger national branding and support? Obviously, as a Spartan fan, I'd love to have that travel to go down and cover, as opposed to really, having a 4-8 season and then sitting at home during December instead of going to a football game out in nice little city like Tampa or Arlington, Texas would be great, but instead I'm right here.
Shout out Xavier. Oh, hell yeah. I get home from work and I get the Doc and Emmett. It's a great day. Shout out to you, Xavier. Now, real fast, I do got to address this from Patty Grimes. Doc, are you still a journalist asking for a friend? Now, this is from Crunch Time, where I lost my cool a little bit because everybody knows, based on the way I act, even Emmett knows, I am not a journalist. I surround myself with great journalists like Emmett, Christian, and Vito.
Appreciate
I
it.
am a podcaster. I am what you would call a reporter. I report information that I see from the Lions to the world. But this is what I love. This is the joy I have. Just firing off a message to Emmett. Hey, what are you doing? I want to talk to you. He's like, okay, which is great. This is what I love to do. This is what I am. So all my label, Emmett, is if you want to know what the boss is, I'm a podcaster.
Yeah, okay.
That's what I am. I'm a loud, passionate guy that likes to talk sports with the people that he cares about. And you're definitely one of them. And
Appreciate
it. Definitely. Absolutely. I want to do this more. Absolutely. I want to talk to you about the things you see with the Lions and Michigan State. No doubt about it. Andrew, Sherrone's a true leader and best. Whoo, it's a wild time. So those in the chat, please smash the like button. 750 people. I feel like this is going to get to 1,000. This is really good. Smash that like button so we can continue to grow more subscribers. We can do more shows, super chat. Now, who should replace Sherrone Moore? That's the biggest question. I know a lot of people are talking about maybe Reese from the Cleveland Browns. He's a young offensive coordinator. Jed Fish from Washington. A lot of people like Jesse Minter.
But I think Minter's my shoe in personally.
Yeah, but I don't know if he's on the list of those that are violated rules from the past. So Michigan's got a interesting next step. Obviously, they have Biff that's going to run the program for a month. They just need somebody to placehold. But what do you think is the best course of action now for Michigan? How do they pivot? What's the best thing that they can do? Because this is a major stain. And our next talk will be for sure, you and I will be, does Ward Manuel need to be whacked next? Because of the fact that this is a guy that has overseen a program that has had issue after issue after issue. And at some point, you have to be held accountable for your actions. And Ward Manuel has overseen a program athletically that has gone down the tubes and has found themselves in a myriad of trouble in a myriad of ways. Starting with, having a basketball player in a car that belonged to him or his family.
I was just thinking of that incident too. You have Jawan Howard slapping an assistant after the game.
Yeah. So what do you think is next? It's been confirmed. Yeah, Minter, I think, is on the list where he can't join because of the show cause. Maybe, yeah. So I think that they're gonna move quickly after the bowl game. But it's interesting because the timing of this would lend that Michigan, to me, has always felt like in the realm of the job with the money, the support, like in Alabama, like the likes of a DeBoer, the likes of the biggest name coaches out there should be thought of for the Michigan job. But I feel like this timing might put them in peril in regards to who they could find next. Who do you think, just when you started seeing that Sherrone Moore was fired, do you think they go to Notre Dame and say, hey, come here? Do you go to a next level guy, the next big mind? I feel like it needs to be an offensive guy. It needs to be a guy that can develop Bryce Underwood or any quarterback, because the offense was so bad, Emmett, that you could see that, oh my God, yards against Ohio State. Where do they go next?
So I definitely think offensive would be the ideal goal. So you might see the big swing for Alabama's Kalen DeBoer. I personally do not see that really happening. I could not see DeBoer going and leaving Alabama when he finally might have them at the spot you really want them to be at after kind of having that rocky transition year after Saban. But I could definitely see them at least making a couple phone calls to see if there's mutual interest. Obviously, at this point in the college head coach hiring, all the dance partners really have been taken. So that is definitely the concern, because you look around and BYU has just re-upped their head coach to avoid getting poached. You have all these teams, even like Matt Campbell, who has been a long-time rumor for Michigan. He's off the table now. He's with Penn State. And you just have head coach after head coach who you could put on a short list of maybe this would be a good settle option if you can't get anyone. You could put that on the list. They're all gone too. And Michigan is a national brand, and I think Michigan can make a better hire than, say, if a Michigan State, if a Penn State, if a Maryland, if anyone opened up like that. Michigan has a better reach and could make a better hire. I will not debate that one because that's factual. But I think Jesse Minter obviously was the first name that comes to mind. He has the show cause till April, so maybe that's not in the cards this year. I don't think you want to go with the Stanford plan of having Biff in charge for a full year and then saying, look, we'll just kick it to the next cycle. You can't do that with how good of a defense you have and the number one player in the nation from the 2025 recruiting class. So you definitely have to look, I would say, offense. Yeah, I see a comment of Mike McDaniel. That's an option. I mean, you have to just get somebody that can harness Bryce Underwood. If you think you can keep Bryce Underwood at Michigan and you think an offensive coach, then I think that's the best interest. At the same time, with how good Michigan's defense is, could you see potentially losing Bryce Underwood to the portal, using that money and investing it to get at least a good stopgap 1-2 year quarterback and being able to then really have everything set to go, I would say. So I can't really commit to a name because DeBoer just seems unrealistic, but I would say plausible. I wouldn't say more than a 30% chance, but though just Minter and DeBoer are the first two names that come off the list. And then Tommy Rees, I know he does have that. I believe he was with Notre Dame at one point too, correct?
Potentially, yeah. I think he's still young, but at less than 35 years old, I think he's 33. I think
and that might be the same issue you had with people saying Max Bola should be hired as the head coach at Michigan State. I think you could have someone who can lead the guys and can fire them up, but you want that head coach leading experience and best. The good news for Michigan fans is that it is no longer directly after Jim Harbaugh, so you're not succeeding the coach that won the national championship. You have kind of that stopgap because no one wants to succeed the guy that takes you to the highest of highs and that euphoria of a national title, because you are a legend at that point, and anyone who succeeds you has enormous shoes to fill in. Obviously, with Sherrone Moore, at some point, I definitely feel like the Michigan fan base is going to be anyone can be better than Sherrone. So you definitely have that. Okay, we'll take anyone over that, because the main thing, especially as a Spartan fan who is looking at next head coaching hires, anyone has to be a better person than Mel, was kind of the general philosophy, and you have that now.
Now, what's interesting, a name that has popped up, and one that I feel like, the word of the day is, when people are looking at hires, they say, could they be a plant? I feel like this name would be a plant, but it's a funny name, but I see it, and a lot of people are liking it. John Gruden, Nate gets in.
Yeah.
Great to see you. What do you think about John Gruden? I think it would be funny and entertaining, but it's tough because now we kind of look at him as the barstool guy. I when he came to town and praised John Morton, all I could picture was, this is the guy that does content, that's opening up the Michigan State box, that's opening up all these boxes. He's been out of coaching for so long. There's a lot of smoke, but he's got a lot of support. I feel like, at least from the mindset of an offensive wizard, but I think that he doesn't have the experience at the collegiate level, at least in the recent past, to be able to just march in and recruit at his age and handle everything. I feel like that's a great name, but the realistic John Gruden work for Michigan, I feel like he might even cause more problems with some things going on. I feel like there might be some improprieties or something that he would do that would get him in trouble with all those stuff that happened with the league and everything. But listen, interesting name.
I agree with that. I agree.
He would generate clicks.
Oh, he would generate clicks and everything, but optic standpoint, going from a guy that got fired for a scandal to a guy who his last coaching job got fired for a scandal, just from an optic standpoint, that's not necessarily the look you want to have. As someone who had this moral debate with the whole, after Mel Tucker got fired, the debate on, okay, would you be willing to accept someone like, say, an Urban Meyer, just character concerns out the wazoo, but he's a proven winner? And so that's generally the question you have to have is, can you really jump from one ethical dilemma to another? I know, obviously, it is a completely different situation and yes, he was cleared, but it is still an optics situation, because, I mean, even with Pat Fitzgerald, there was a little bit of pushback because of, even though it was found that he settled and was, quote, vindicated, end quote. And then obviously there was a settlement, and the president of Northwestern got fired 2 weeks after the settlement. That said, there's still pushback for it. So I could see Gruden succeeding at Michigan, but I don't know if it will be right away. And I don't know if you would have Bryce Underwood stick around when he could really have. He hits the transfer portal right now. He has his pick of schools, and a couple schools I'm sure will give him a blank checkbook. So you would have to. I honestly, in this age of college football, you might have to consult with Bryce Underwood's party and agents over who the head coach hire, or who your quarterback's coach, who your offensive coordinator should be, if you choose to clean house. Obviously, Michigan, they are in position to do that now that you have a brand new head coach coming in, for sure.
What do you think about another Harbaugh? Gerald gets in. Gerald, 8670. How about John Harbaugh? He might want out of Baltimore, or might be forced out of Baltimore if they struggle. They just lost to, I believe, the Steelers, dropping their record one game under 500. Or do you just get away from the Harbaugh era totally? Because Jim Harbaugh is banned, show cause. He bounced quickly. He did the Pete Carroll plan, and he started this whole mess and oversaw alleged dirty program, and then bounced. And clearly is somebody that maybe was willing to forego some ethics and proper care of the respect level for that program. But do they go back to the Harbaugh name? Because that name rings true for that program. The love for the Harbaughs is still there, even to this day, even with everything that's been shown, what happened, the way in which the athletic program went rogue and did some things in terms of, at least we'll say, advanced analytics and scouting in a manner that was deemed to be a little inappropriate, which resulted in a plethora of punishments. To what degree, everybody will debate how severe it was, but in the end, Harbaugh left and he's not allowed back. So you don't just get a show cause for nothing. What do you think? John Harbaugh, another NFL name, surprising. Now, we are here in the hilarious business, and I did put out a tweet jokingly a decade ago. Let's say not that much now. It's 2015. In 2019 and 20, when Matt Patricia was here with the Lions, I said, I feel like this guy, obviously with his success with the Patriots, is a defensive mind. I feel like his shtick doesn't work in the pros. I feel like his shtick would work in college. And in 2018, I joked. I said he should be the next coach of Michigan. Would you, maybe not Patricia specifically, I doubt he would go from Ohio State to Michigan. And I doubt that Michigan would go in that direction. But would you go with a name like a John Harbaugh, a Matt Patricia, somebody else that comes from the league as well? Any other names that you think could come from the NFL that would take this job?
So I'll throw out a name if you want to talk about offensive. Just in general, this is one that just came to me. How about Chip Kelly, for example? I mean, experience, I don't necessarily know if I would. I don't know if the Chip Kelly offense would really work for Michigan, but yeah, I think John Harbaugh would be the most hilarious answer, and I actually kind of want to see that now. Just going Harbaugh, more Harbaugh again, and then I think it'll be the most hilarious timeline, and I kind of want to see that. But I definitely think you can have, especially with the way this new college football world works, you can have more success going from NFL to NCAA, because the NCAA is a lot more of almost a minor pro league, just because of with paying players, and you have a lot more autonomy. Just the players have a lot more ability to have their own pushback and everything, which is their right, and I think it's good. Those players have that ability and have a lot more of an NFL style regimen. Obviously, you still have collegiate classes, for example, but I definitely think you can see more success than you could, say, 2012, 2013. So I do think it could work, but yeah, Chip Kelly's just a spitball hire. I don't think it's going to be a popular one with the chat, I'm pretty sure, but I think you could see that if you're just talking about offensive standpoint. I think that would be intriguing. I don't necessarily, like I said, I don't know if it'll work, and I don't know if that's who Michigan wants as their guy, but it's always just worth mentioning with someone with a ton of experience.
Yeah, for those that are new now hopping in, we got now almost 1,000 people across 2 platforms. If you're on X, hit the like button, retweet, comment there. We'll read some. If you're here on YouTube, smash the like button for us. Here late night, enjoying some conversation. We're talking Michigan. It's the big news of the day. But if you have Lions comments, we've seen a couple. A lot of people are doubting the Lions. We're going to get to it probably in the second half here. Probably if Emmett wants to stay on for another half hour, we're going. Oh, yeah. We got time. We're enjoying the conversation. We're talking the big news of the day because it's massive. When a job opens like the job at Michigan, it's huge. And it has reverberating effects in the league. And we're also going to talk about Michigan State, but also, too, we'll mix in a Lions take here real fast. So here's what I want to read and know about. One, what's your thoughts about Sherrone? Who's a coach, a name that you think could come in and take over the program, maybe clean it up, or maybe you wait for a new athletic director, or maybe you go for a younger dude and grow and have kind of be a stopgap because the big names, maybe you wait for the next cycle in a couple years. Let us know what you think about that. If you're a Michigan State fan, what do you think about Max Bulla? I'm going to talk to Emmett for sure about his thoughts about that. But the Lions here, we do want to mix in some Lions talk. And Emmett, you now have watched from afar. You know the history of the Lions, their struggles. They got to win a big game against the LA Rams. And I'm going back and forth. I was like wilding out on crunch time. I'm like, you know what? It's a straightforward take. My head says that they're going to lose. My brain, clearly without Brian Branch, major injury, you don't have your tight end. You don't have your 2 tight ends. You just let go of the guy you just brought in. Yeah, you don't have any tight ends. You're hoping Shane Zylstra comes back. Kirby Joseph, we don't know if he's coming back. He was limited today in practice. My heart says, you know what? They're desperate. That offense can really go out there and go toe-to-toe. And because I'm a Stafford hater, I think Stafford can give us the football. Matthew Stafford is turnover prone, and in the face of pressure with Al-Quadin and Aidan, I feel like Matthew Stafford is going to revert back to the Lions guy, and he's going to be Stat Patford, where he's down 14 points and then light up our secondary and still lose by 3. I feel like the Lions are going to be a team that plays very well on the road. They have the pieces in place, and I do think they might possess the best player on the field in Jahmyr Gibbs. How are you viewing the Lions right now with a record of 8-5, but they got the biggest test? They're going out west to face the Los Angeles Rams. So what do you guys think? Lions or Rams? We got a couple Lions haters that came up here early and said the Lions run is over. But what do you guys think about the Lions? And also get your comments in about Michigan. We're free flowing here. We'll go back and forth, but I got to get Emmett's take because he is bringing knowledge, and we'll get a little sprinkle of some of the picks. Maybe he thinks from he's our college guy. He's been peeking at some players that potentially could come in here. I know he reads our stuff. Maybe a Texas Tech defensive end or the Alabama left tackle could be somebody prior, could be somebody on the list. What do you think about the Lions matchup against the Rams?
I definitely think it's an intriguing matchup, and I'm very excited, obviously, to see it play out. But just with the Lions, like you said, with the Lions decimated by injury for the second season in a row, it is very hard to see them going out west and winning it just because, I mean, face it, this is a team that's injured. And when you are down that many players, when you are traveling across the country, the players say, yeah, it's not an excuse. At the same time, yeah, you are not going to it's not going to be the same just for when it's not going to be the same sleeping at a hotel versus being able to really have your own place. And my heart says that I want Detroit to win, but this could be that one game you drop, but you're still easily in playoff contention. You're not in contention for the North. I think if you lose one game, you're not in contention. That said, I do think, honestly, with the playoffs and how all the teams look this year, all you need is a chance. So if that gives the Lions enough time to get healthy, I like it. But yeah, for this game, I definitely feel like I can see the Lions. I feel like it's going to be Lions lose by about that 3-4 point mark. That said, I mean, I think I predicted the Lions to lose 2 or 3 times in our expert predictions this year, and I was proven completely wrong. I think I definitely had us losing to Baltimore, and then we decimated them. So, yeah.
Okay, you are very pragmatic, which I respect your opinion. That's why we have you here. Emmett writes for Lions on SI. He's featured as well in the predictions. He does a lot of work with the college ranks and kind of in the coming weeks when the playoff happens, I'll probably have him target some games and some prospects from the certain playoff games. So that's on your list.
Putting that on the mental checklist.
Yes, absolutely. But on the other side, let me present the side of hope. I really do believe Jahmyr Gibbs, when you got a guy that you can see up front that can do those things.
He's going to be the best player on the field.
I think he's going to be the best player on that field. Yeah, he is a player that, now I was not mad when the Lions drafted a running back in the first round. I understood it, but I was wrong in that if you go back at Detroit Podcast on that draft day, I had felt like, you know what? I kind of know Brad Holmes. I felt like, you know what? I think running back could be a target, but I had not done extensive research on Gibbs. I did a lot of work on Bijan. So I looked and said he could be a guy that could come in and do some things as well. And so I said, man, maybe he could be somebody that could flash. But now you get Gibbs, and man, he's emerged as the real Alvin Kamara type. He's also good out of the backfield in a screen game. He gives you the opportunity to be able to put David Montgomery in the backfield and then line up Jahmyr Gibbs in the slot. He is growing, man. And when you just say, okay, what's the way in which you highlight the strength of the Lions? Take the ball out of Goff's hands and kind of just give it to Gibbs a couple times and early in the game and see if there's some explosiveness there in the screen game. And then that, I think, opens things up where you can get some space for Amon-Ra St. Brown and J-Mo. I feel like J-Mo in that dome might be able to, the true stars go to LA, right? The true stars go to LA. And I just feel like the Lions offense, if they get rolling. Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, J-Mo, Hollywood star, Jared Goff going back to the crib that he played well in. He knows that crib.
Oh, yeah.
Opportunity for the offense. And so on the hope side, I really believe that Dan Campbell calling this offense, I think, has an opportunity to exploit some things. But you do got to realize they got Jared Verse, Kobe Turner. They do have a defensive line that can pressure Goff. But I feel like the opportunity for Goff to have answers needs to be there. And those answers are short little screens to Jahmyr Gibbs, short little opportunities for J-Mo, different opportunities in space for St. Brown. I have a little bit more hope as the week progresses because I feel like the Lions will limit the mistakes and the Rams, I think, will blink first in terms of turnovers. And that's how I'm seeing it right now. But I feel like, why not, man? Jahmyr Gibbs is he kind of, in your eyes, kind of becoming the Alvin Kamara? Is there a comp that you see in regards to his play and what he's brought to the table?
I would say Alvin Kamara is a very fair comp because he just you can line him up anywhere on the field, and no matter where you line him up on the field, he's the most deadly player. And you have him in the backfield, he can find a way to turn 1 yard into 5, 1 yard into 7, and then you give him 7 yards, and he's probably taking it to the house. And he's just deadly in space, and that is just the guy you have to watch out for. And Gibbs was a guy that actually in college, his final two choices were Alabama and Michigan State. So I had actually done a little bit of research on him and I remember watching his film from Georgia Tech and saying, wow, this is a guy that he's going to be a one and done. I forget his class status. He might have been a junior into senior or a sophomore into junior, but I said, this guy, he has 1 year of college left in him. He is going to go straight to the draft. Obviously, I didn't see him as, that top 10, top 15 pick. I didn't think he would be selected that high. I don't even remember if I had him after the season that was Kenneth Walker. I don't remember if I had him necessarily in that same realm, but I thought he was definitely top 5 running back in the draft. And obviously, he has been, if it wasn't the same class as Bijan, you have him at that top no matter what. But Gibbs is turning into the most complete and the most deadly back. And it is as someone who's watched the Lions trot out running backs that would play 2 games and you never hear him again, it is amazing to see someone just be able to produce at the same level he has despite the amount of attention he gets. And that's also Amon-Ra St. Brown, J-Mo, Laporta when he was healthy, Isaac Tesla, Khalif Raymond when healthy. You have all these guys that they have enough weapons on the offense that you can't focus 3 guys on Gibbs because you have so many other weapons. Sometimes Gibbs gets put in one-on-one. That might as well be a practice drill, 1 versus air, with how dynamic and explosive he is.
Yeah, it's amazing. You're absolutely right. Dynamic, explosive, and on any given play can get after it. I think Jared Goff's going to have a better game than Stafford. I feel like the opportunity's there to be cleaner, to get the ball out quicker, and to be able to get out to a lead. I think that the Lions understand that the game against the Rams is going to be back and forth. There's going to be opportunities, but that defense led by Jack Campbell and Alex Anzalone and Derek Barnes. Now, you covered them. You've seen them. Press box in one of my great moments, I think it was 2021, when Kenneth Walker had 5 touchdowns and everyone was talking about Aiden Hutchinson. It was great. It was great to be there. What's your take on Hutch? It's an interesting discussion because you cover college. You've seen a guy that's a premier defensive end, but clearly he's getting doubled and chipped. And against decent opponents, against solid offensive linemen, he's kind of dipped a little bit. Whereas, but he's a different pass rusher than Micah Parsons. Micah is a little bit twitchier and speedier and can power through a little bit. Aiden is also coming back from the injury and is somebody that features, a little bit more savvy spin moves, gets to the quarterback, but I think that at times struggles to close and can get dominated a little bit by the opposing right tackles when there's some talent there. The Packers right tackle handled him for the most part. And so that's where you need somebody else. But at the same token, you're investing and, he's held and doubled and tripled and chipped. So he gets all the attention. And so that's where an Al-Quadin Muhammad can get some love and gets 3 sacks against the Cowboys. But I would just say in general, not out of disrespect, but you just need more from Aiden Hutchinson. And if you get that, I feel like Aiden can be the Jahmyr of the defense if he got it into gear a little bit more. I feel like you just want more. And I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm not saying he doesn't produce pressures and sacks and numbers, but it feels like the next step is like how Jahmyr has explosive runs. Jahmyr was always a good runner, but he has explosiveness. He has impact. And I think for Aiden, at this time, it's Aiden time. And the team defense will likely go because Emmett, you see, it's Amik Robertson, it's DJ Reed, it's maybe a less than 100% Kirby Joseph. It feels like the stud of the defense should have the expectation of go carry that defense and bring down the quarterback. And if you ever are seeing a guy that's going to be a statue, it's Matthew Stafford. How do you view Aiden Hutchinson from your perspective? How do you view the debate about pressures and sacks and, hey, he's double, chipped, held, and a lot of excuses people make? I don't think it's disrespectful to say, I want more from 97. More.
I agree that you definitely want more from Hutchinson. That is a fact. At the same time, I do definitely think he is, as someone who, if anything, I would have bias to say that he's a bust. Honestly, I recognize that, yes, I'm a Michigan State fan, but at the same time, I think that Aiden Hutchinson is overrated. Hutchinson, that he's been a step shy for so many sacks this year. I believe he put up a record for quarterback hits against the Giants when he only had that 1 sack in the overtime win. He went and put up, I want to say, a team record for pressures last week. He is always 1 or 2 steps shy, and maybe part of that's his leg injury, and part of that's he just doesn't have that same final closing burst of speed or final speed or first speed off the line that a Micah Parsons has. And then that's why you just see him. He gets all these hits, pressures, etc. And I think that going against Stafford, who of all quarterbacks in the NFL, I think maybe besides if the Colts trot out Phillip Rivers, you have to say that Stafford is the least mobile quarterback, in my opinion. Just in terms of who's going to be starting around the league this week, unless you really see Phillip Rivers trot out there, the least mobile quarterback is Stafford. And that also means he's one of the more aware ones. He's one of the more veteran presences and can read those defenses faster. But at the same time, he's not going to be able to elude and get that extra half second you need to throw the ball or throw it away. And I definitely think that will help Hutch. But at the same time, it's completely fair to want more from him. At times, I want more from him. I would love to have it be Muhammad had the occasional 3-sack game, and then you can go a couple games without Muhammad getting pressure because Hutchinson's getting back there 1.5 times, 2 times. Aleem McNeil might be able to split one with him. You want to have enough pressure and actual quarterback sacks because pressures are great and all, but if you force a pressure and the ball's thrown away, 2nd and 10 is a lot different than 2nd and 13, 2nd and 15, 2nd and 17, because it's chain moving plays. And with the weapons almost every team has, especially from here on out, you don't want to give them that chance of having those 4 extra yards. You don't want to spot them those yards when you have bigger, stronger, explosive athletes at all points, especially with a beat up secondary.
Nice. No, I agree. He could do more. I wouldn't say that he's overrated. I think that,
I think he's overhated, not overrated.
Yeah, overhated. Sure. Exactly. There's a lot of people that say overrated, but I think that, the criticism is a little bit too much at times because, he is drawing a lot of attention. That does help the team stop the run. It does help the team. You're absolutely right. He does deserve more respect. And I do think he is under the microscope, but he should be. When you're going to start making $48 million a year, you're going to be under the microscope. And you're right. He is
when you're the homegrown son, number 2 overall pick, you're always going to be under that because, he's from Michigan, from the University of Michigan as well. He is the homegrown son that is there to lead his team to glory.
Right.
But yeah, and I see the comment, he was never in the Myles Garrett tier. That's a fair assessment. I don't think that he's never going to be the fastest and most twitchiest and the number 1 edge rusher in the league. He is always going to be a very, very solid player. And I think he can be the number 3, number 4 edge rusher on the year. Sure. He's a perennial Pro Bowler and maybe he can get a couple All-Pro seasons. Yes. But he is never going to be that dominant force. He's never going to be a JJ Watt, for example. He's never going to be an Aaron Donald. He's never going to be maybe not even a Khalil Mack. But he is going to be, Aiden Hutchinson should be in that top 5 discussion. And if you're a top 5 edge, you got to play like a top 5 edge in all games and not just the occasional one game you have 2.5 sacks and then you go 3 weeks with, sure, you had 7 quarterback hits between the 3 weeks, but you didn't have any, you don't have any sacks. You don't bring the quarterback down and the team is a couple of winning, which we saw quite a few times this year. And you give 45 more seconds on the clock with Dan Campbell calling the plays and that explosive Lions offense, that could flip the game completely.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Hutch is a little bit overhated and critiqued a little bit too much, but at the same token, there is an expectation now that because Brett Holmes has said, we're not going to get the next, tier of defensive end. You're going to get somebody in that $1 to $2 million range or 4 to 5, like Marcus Davenport. Yeah. That the reason why is because we got Aidan. So Aiden's got to do just a little bit more. But you're right. I do think that the fine tuning of the assessment is that, he does bring a lot of pressure and sacks. They're not meaningless, but at the same time, there has to be more impact in bigger games. And so I think that's what you would say. Now, you're seeing, and I know you read the usage, the average defensive end that has a lot of sacks, that's north of 10 sacks, only playing 70 to 75% of defensive snaps. Do you think they're misusing him by playing him 94% of defensive snaps? The dude doesn't leave the field. Does that, when you see that and understand that the guys in the top 10 of sacks, only guys like, Max Crosby and Hutch are in that above 90%. The average defensive end that's in the top 10 of sacks is playing about 70 to 75% of defensive snaps. They come off the field and rest up a little bit. Dan Campbell was asked, Kelvin Shepard, the defensive coordinator was asked, does he need to come off the field? Is he playing too much? And Kelvin Shepard said to the reporter, you go tell Aidan to come off the field. He doesn't want to leave. But at the same token, do the Lions got to maybe protect him from himself and say, hey, little bit less on the rotation, maybe bulk up, build up some energy so that in crunch time in the fourth quarter, when we need you, you can maybe get sacks in bunches. That's what people don't see, is that he goes a little bit of a lull in between sacks, whereas Myles Garrett is getting 3-4 sacks potentially a game, and Aiden's not doing that.
Yeah, so I would say that is a fair question, and something that definitely, I think, if Hutchinson played 75% of snaps, yeah, he'd have that extra step, that extra explosiveness that he would have on snap 22 of the game as opposed to snap 49 of the game, for example. But at the same time, you cover the Lions. You tell me this. Do you think that you can put any player out there at the same level against the run in run situations that Aiden Hutchinson would have in terms of defense? Do you think you can really, I mean, yes, the defensive tackle room is loaded. Do you think you can bump Aleem McNeil out there at defensive end to try to rest Hutchinson up?
Yeah, no, I think the Sam linebacker spot is being underutilized. I think that Derek Barnes has a chance to be a really solid pass rusher, but it's matchup based at times. Jack Campbell, I like the opportunity of using linebackers on the edge and at certain spots, but it is matchup based, and I do know that because Hutchinson has a high motor, that they trust his judgment to not want to come off the field. But I do think that when they were healthy, you could have used Terrion Arnold and Brian Branch coming off of the edge as well with blitzes and pressure.
Yeah.
And different opportunities. So there are opportunities. I think that, what was unfortunate was you aren't getting enough from Josh Pascal, who didn't get activated. Mekhi Wingo has been a healthy scratch. Guys that you could have maybe slotted in there, Levi Onwuzurike. The guys that you potentially would want on the edge are not there. So you're lacking some depth. So unfortunately, it's also out of necessity, right?
Yeah.
You're seeing that.
I agree with that.
It's out of necessity. But down the stretch, the bodies down the stretch, we shall see. What do you guys think? Is Hutch used too much? What is your expectation for Hutch against the Rams? I want to know your thoughts about Hutch. Drop them in the comments. We'll feature as many of them as possible. We've cleared 1,010 people in this room right now. Hit the like button for us. Me and Emmett probably going another 10, 15 minutes. We're going to talk some Michigan State. We'll keep going as long as the numbers keep rising. We started with 300 and now we're over 1,000. That's great on 2 platforms. This is really a fun opportunity here late at night to kind of talk a little bit, weigh in some thoughts about Michigan, the craziness that is Sherrone Moore. What do you think about the Lions? Your score predictions? Are they going to get after it? So I'm really excited for the opportunity to be able to discuss football and everything like that. So across 2 platforms, if you're on X, hit the like button. If you're here on YouTube, smash that like button as well. Retweet, get your comments, and share, and help us keep getting the stream out to the masses. So hit that like button for us as we get near 1,200 across the 2 platforms. Now, got to get your thoughts. Michigan State brings home Max Bulla, which is great. It's a great hire. What do you think about the Spartans, and what do you think about the early thoughts about Fitzgerald and what he's doing? It seems like for Spartan fans that he's doing the right things in regards to culture, going out to the things you would do, going out to the ice hockey rink and seeing the Spartan hockey team, being at Breslin Center for the basketball team. It feels like he's got an energy to want to tap into the culture. And I think that's the biggest thing. Did you feel a disconnect with Jonathan Smith? Like maybe he just came in and at some point kind of felt like this was way too much for him. And now you get an experienced coach in Fitzgerald, who at least is going to understand what a program like Michigan State is looking for. And bringing in Max Bulla, I think, is great.
I completely agree. Bringing in Bulla is great. As far as the Smith debate goes, I think it wasn't necessarily a issue of, say, that he realized it was too much for him. I think that Smith really came here to coach football, and that was it, and not get involved in the community. And Michigan State needs that coach involved with the community, being the field, off the field, all around campus. And you see that with Pat Fitzgerald so far. Early returns very good on him. Now, the take I've had for basically since the second he was hired, and this is the take I had before Michigan State hired a coach or even fired Jonathan Smith. If Michigan State was moving on, I would be withholding judgment on giving a, say, letter grade to a coach until you really see the coordinator hires, until you see how the first portal cycle works, because that's really what's going to determine your success in year one at this point. And in the need now society, you're gonna have your judgment after year one right away. And I think that just with Fitzgerald, unless you were landing like Dan Lanning of Oregon, Kurt Signetti of Indiana, I was going to withhold a grade. If you got Lanning, you got Signetti, yeah, those are A+ hires. But that's not realistic. So with Fitz, I'm withholding judgment. But so far, early returns are good. You retain James Adams. You bring back Joe Rossi. You bring Max Bola into there. And you also have broken by John Bryce that Trey Reeder, who was a Notre Dame walk-on, turned a student assistant with the linebackers last year. He's going to be a co-linebacker coach with Max Bola. Bola's also being co-defensive coordinator with Rossi. Overall, the thing that I'm most excited about is the amount of passion and fire you're going to have on the sidelines. One of the main complaints about Johnson Smith, and you saw it yourself when you were covering Michigan State games, the few times you were able to come out there, Johnson Smith was emotionless on the sideline. Just kind of walked around, ho-hum, nonchalant, aw shucks, whatever you want to call it. Johnson Smith didn't have that fire, didn't work the officials over like PJ Fleck did in the overtime loss to Minnesota, for example. You have three extremely passionate coaches. You have Pat Fitzgerald, you have Max Bola, and you have Joe Rossi. You saw the fire Rossi had. Fitzgerald and Bola, both former All Big Ten linebackers, they can lead people. They show the passion and the fire, and they are going to have extreme culture buy-in, an extremely hard-hitting, hard-nosed defensive mind for the football. Now, I think that you haven't made an official offensive hire yet, and you need to knock the ball out of the park at this point. That is my concern so far, but I think you're going to have these. I think you're going to have more defensive players lining up to play for just such a strong group for defensive coaches so far. I definitely am a little nervous to see how the secondary coach shakes out, because you do have one more spot open at least. Obviously, there's less limits in terms of total hires you can do now with the new NCAA rules. But you have a very strong start, and early returns, I'm giving an A+. You've already gotten Alessio Milivojevic to return starting quarterback. That is something that you definitely needed to do. So early returns, I'm giving an A+ because I don't see any missteps. But obviously, there is still a whole portal to go. You haven't gotten a single person to land at Michigan State so far. So you definitely need to give it a second before you can say, oh, he said A+, because yeah, it's A+, but you've made 4 hires and you still have quite a few players I'm sure will hit the portal. I've even heard leaks and rumors on a couple. And then you still have an entire class to sign in the portal, because he's already implied that you're probably bringing in over 40 players, including freshmen this year. So there is going to be a lot done for Michigan State before I can really put that full letter grade on. But early returns, so far so good. I'll give it an A+, because we all wanted Bola as a DC. And now you get Bola, but some people but Rossi was leading the players, and the players love Rossi. Somehow, Michigan State managed to get both. And that is a world I could not even I couldn't see during the initial hire of Pat Fitzgerald.
Yeah, so it's always going to be an uphill climb, but make sure you look at Spartan Shadows for in-depth coverage of Michigan State if you want to know about the transfer portal, who potentially is going to stay. A lot of happening. Spartan Shadows. Emmett does a great job covering the Michigan State Spartans as a true beat writer, and is somebody that travels with the team at times and is always having opportunities to get some inside information covering the Michigan State Spartans at a quality level. Getting back to the Lions and to Michigan, we've been talking over the last hour, maybe 15 minutes left or so. Emmett, I don't know if you can check with your phone, but it would appear that Bryce Underwood has done the taking out Michigan from his Instagram page. That's what some account. Yeah, I don't know. It says that he's a student athlete. He's still got Michigan photos. He hasn't taken out the photos, but it would appear that he doesn't say Michigan in his profile. So Bryce Underwood might be a little disappointed with the Michigan Wolverines, and naturally so. But I mean, when he finds out what the hell happened, that Bryce Underwood's got to figure it out. Hopefully, I'm curious. Do you think he opens himself up. Are we potentially seeing, would you, if you were Bryce Underwood, seeing the little chaos that's going on and the way this all went, would you hit the portal? If you're Bryce Underwood, guys in the chat, would you hit the portal? If you were Bryce Underwood at this point in time, it's a little bit chaotic with the program, and one of those deals where do you start to see some more escalation of things he does on social media? Does he take out those pictures in the coming weeks? So we'll see. I don't know if he had it before, but the number one thing out of this firing is to check in with Bryce Underwood. You're paying him a lot of money, and you might have a quarterback that's not happy that there's going to be a massive overhaul. I don't think players like chaos, correct?
No, players do not like chaos. Players do not like upheaval, because even in the worst of teams, the team just went 4-8 for Michigan State, for example. The players were still completely bought in and heartbroken by Johnson Smith being fired. And yes, you didn't see the passion on the side and stuff, but these players, there's a reason why they go and attend the University of Michigan, for example, just looking at the Wolverines right now, for example. And it's not just because of the prestige and the brand. It's because they are genuinely bought into the coaches, the assistants, the staff, all its people, and they know them at that level that we only see them on game days. They spend more time with these coaches than they do with their own family, their girlfriends, everyone. They spend more time with their teammates and their coaches than most of us would ever imagine. So you are going to have a lot of hurt feelings regardless of the circumstance. That said, obviously the logical side is going to say, yeah, you can't keep the coach around with the situation that happened. I'll answer your own question for if I'm Bryce Underwood, do I portal? Taking the mind of someone from Belleville right here. I kind of lean towards yes, just because with this day and age of college football, when you're switching a coach and everything, you might as well hit the portal and see what there is to offer for you. Because especially during an upheaval like now, unless they say promote Biff straight to head coach, you're not going to have continuity. And you might as well see, if I'm Bryce Underwood, I see the best situation for Bryce Underwood and not just the best situation for that, because I'm going to have to win back over another staff. I might as well see if there is another better situation for me, whether it's financially, whether it's as a player, whether it's offensive scheme, quarterback coach, you name it. I think that you have to do your due diligence and check for that, because at the same time, it's not like you are quitting after, Michigan retains everybody and they went 9-3. You didn't have your own personal year you wanted, so you hit the portal. No, you are bringing in a completely new staff. So I think that it is almost the due diligence to see maybe if I can get more in the portal. And that's just in general how I view it objectively as a journalist, is with Michigan State having their own change. I don't blame any player for hitting the portal right now too, because you have a whole new scheme and staff you have to win over. You might as well see the best situation for yourself personally.
Yeah, it's an interesting time for Michigan. Upheaval, Sherrone Moore. Now, listen, Emmett, I don't know how much you entertain the craziness that is X, but I'm going to flash this. This isn't real. It's been kind of proven to be fake, but I got to find it if it's still here. It is crazy. There are so much fake news out there that it is so crazy in regards to the information. And really, in the end, you got to find trusted sources on X, on Google. It is crazy to think about, when this stuff happens, all the fake news that really does permeate, and people are trying to put out information. It is crazy. And then the crazy part is that people amplify the fake news by not checking. But, it's a crazy time when we look at stuff on X. Now, this is clearly fake, but I got to share that. It's just too funny. Misinformation is at an all-time high. It's craziness, but this was funny. This I'm purporting to be fake, but Emmanuel Acho highlighted it. So this is the fake Sherrone Moore mugshot.
Oh, boy. Oh my god.
And look at this. Emmanuel Acho. Dang, this situation is actually getting more sad by the moment. Now,
Oh my gosh.
look, if you just like people, please go under the comments when you see stuff. Go under the comments. If it's from an official Ohio State person, just go look. Does this look like Sherrone Moore to you? Like at your first thought, right? And it says deep fake. Come on, guys. Let's be real.
And I've seen the edit of him, for example, as the Coldplay CEO. That was one of the funnier edits I saw earlier, too, with just the whole situation that went down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, guys, please be better consumers of your media. Please find avenues to check. Just take an extra beat to read the comments and don't fall for fake news. Follow trusted reporters like Detroit Sports Podcast and Emmett. Now, you can clearly decipher when I'm joking around. Clearly, Sherrone Moore is not going to be on Cops. Clearly, you know, some of the posts I made were in jest. But if you ever have a question, just ask. I'll answer it. We had a little fun with it. You have to, in a situation, have a little brevity. I know it's a serious situation, and
For sure.
you're not supposed to make light of it. But in the end, you know,
why do you think I made the tweet tonight of, you know,
yeah.
well, you know, are they going to still? My only question I have about this is, are they still going to play Mr. Brightside at Michigan games?
Right. Right.
I have to ask, are they going to play Mr. Brightside at Michigan games? Because that's an interesting song considering the situation. That is the most I'll comment on it. Is it's just an ironic song considering what happened.
Yeah, it's today's a day where you realize that some of the things that go on in sports are a little bit unfortunate. But on the serious side, you just hope that, you know, everybody's safe from Sherrone Moore. You hope that everybody in the situation that he's been through can be okay. And we do always hope that everybody.
He has people in his corner, and you know that his family has people in their corner if the situation is as believed. You hope that, you know, they're able to realize that, yes, this is a very low moment in their life, but at the same time, you're hoping they're able to get help, get help through, you know, others, get help through therapy, just to realize that they can rebuild from this, whether it's together, whether it's separate. You have to hope that they can realize that this is not, it might feel like the sky's falling down going from that high of a Michigan coach to really unemployed in a span of 2 hours. But at the same time, you have to realize that, you know, you have to hope that they can realize this is a low point, but there is still time. There's still a lot of life left, and it's not all about the football field.
Yeah, get your life in order. Get your whatever issues you may have. Get your life in order. And for Michigan, maybe you shouldn't conduct yourself in that manner that you're better than everybody else. Because really, in the end, you're on the same level as Michigan State, and that's the bottom line. You guys are going tit for tat regarding scandals, and you're not the leaders in past
scandals.
Yes,
recruiting violations, even.
Yes, it's scandal ridden.
Burgergate versus what Michigan State has right now.
Yeah, scandal gate. Get it together. Hire a coach that will restore a program in terms of the integrity. And we all know how they sold their integrity for results. And look, in the end, it happens in college football, but we don't hide from it and act like it didn't happen. And you're not better than Michigan State. You're not better than Alabama. You're not better than anybody that stoops to that level. You're on the same level. And now you got to rebuild it. And I do hope that maybe it starts with, you got to flush it from the top. Fire more Ward Manuel, start from the top and build a program and be able to kind of start to be as a quality as the basketball team. The basketball team is number one in the country and is doing some things. And it might be a 20-0 Michigan team against a 20-1 State team to see the rivalry go back and forth. So I've enjoyed the conversation with Emmett. Guys, we got to 1,200 people across 2 platforms. Wow. Smash the like button on X, like, retweet, comment. These 3 things. Who do you want to replace Sherrone Moore? Who's the best option to make the rivalry great with Pat Fitzgerald? What do you think about Sherrone Moore? Where were you guys? Where were you when Sherrone Moore got clipped? I was in the Lions media room, and I was shocked. It was like, whoa. And everybody is one of those, I guess, unkept secrets. People were kind of talking about it. And the crazy part is the Michigan defenders were like, no, man, come on, don't talk about it. Don't. They're going on their message board saying this isn't real. And then it turned out to be real. So maybe keep an open mind that these rumors, maybe, don't share them, but keep in mind that when it catches fire, sometimes where there's smoke, Emmett, there's fire. So we'll see moving forward. And then I want your score predictions. What do you think about the Lions? We talked about Hutchinson. What are your expectations for the game? What do you think Hutchinson does? And real fast before we get out of here, if you want to become a member, $4.99, you can get those emojis, special on-demand videos you can watch that are member only. We talked about Taylor Decker's retirement. You get some of the videos that you want to see on demand talking about the Detroit Lions. Shout out to Steve Chimenti, who was napping when the news broke. He's a longtime listener and follower. Thank you, Xavier. You're always requesting likes and comments, and I appreciate your support. The Sparky Watts, thank you so much. Quick shout out here to those that stayed over the course of time. We appreciate it. 2021 Cedric, PPW 35 OZ Unit, AG's Burner. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Emmett, thank you, man. Your debut on the Lone Wolves podcast. We should do this more often. We'll find some times. Listen, you held your own. I think the people liked you. We grew from 200 to 1,200 over the course of an hour and 12 minutes. So you are somebody that is also a valuable and respected journalist. I respect your work. I get my Spartan news from Emmett, and that's the honest truth. And because of his work, he earned himself an opportunity with Detroit Lions on SI. And for his first podcast, he held my interest. He understood all the things that were required. And for that, I'm humbled and honored. Hopefully we can do this again. And again, Emmett does great work. Check him out at Lions on SI. Spartan Shadows, the co-owner of Spartan Shadow, who does podcasts, YouTube. Check out his shout out your ex. Where do people find you? And where do people find all the
shout out E_Matazowski. I'll repost as well as the Lone Wolves thing, so you can search through repost. I know my last name is impossible to spell, but I try my best.
So it's pronounced Matazowski? Yes,
Matazowski.
Matazowski, yeah. And I know in my envelopes I send you, I must have spelled it wrong a couple times, but
one or two times,
Yeah. So great stuff. Guys, smash the like button. Here's how you support us. The Lone Wolves podcast is made possible thanks to OnSI, a great platform that allows publishers to be themselves. All you got to do is smash the like button, comment, interact. We're here. Late night, we just had some energy and we wanted to talk about it. And we had an opportunity to talk about some things that were important to us. And I look forward to talking to Emmett again down the road when big things happen and talking about the Lions and big stuff going on in the world of college sports. And follow Emmett for coverage of some prospects that you're going to start to get to know, because he's somebody in the know that's been watching these, at least in the Big Ten as well, watching these prospects come through from Ohio State and the Big Ten and those that are performing well from Oregon, Washington, this upcoming bowl game with Texas and Michigan. So he'll have some information regarding who to watch during some of these bowl games. Thanks, everybody. This has been the Detroit Lions on SI Lone Wolves podcast. I'm John. He's Emmett. Keep supporting us and hit those comments. I want to see them. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Keep your pants on.